family and Australia. Well, let's go now to Labor MP Josh Burns. He's a proud Jewish Australian MP. And Josh, I wanted to ask about your reaction to these killings broadly. And secondly, is there a sense of relief from your community that this isn't terrorism related? Because that was the initial fear, frankly, in that community. There's a lot of Jewish people in that Bondi Junction community.
Good morning, Andrew. Obviously, this has been an extremely distressing 24 hours, and I don't think there's any relief here. I think it's devastation for the victims who have been senselessly murdered by an individual, and we send our heartfelt sympathies to their families and to their friends. They will be in mourning this morning, and we stand in shoulder to shoulder with them. The bravery that we saw from other people in the shopping centre was extraordinary, and I think we saw the very worst of Australia and the very best of Australia in the same place. And this morning I think everyone's in mourning, and obviously we listen to the advice of the authorities about what has occurred here, and obviously this is still an unfolding investigation. There is still much to happen here. There is still a crime scene that is active, and there are still things that need to become clearer. But for now, all we do is send our heartfelt sympathies to the families of the victims, and we send all of those people who are in hospital our very best wishes.
As a Melburnian, does it remind you of those Burke Street killings in 2017? A similar number of dead there, a man in a motor vehicle on that occasion.
I mean, the images out of Bondi was extremely haunting, and I always love going to Bondi. It's one of the most wonderful parts of Sydney. The people there are so welcoming. It's a tourist, an iconic place where people love to go because of the people and because of the local things to do and the beaches and all of the things that make Bondi such a welcoming place. It was haunting to see the people of Bondi in such distress, and I think all of Australia stands in solidarity with the people of Bondi and especially the victims of those who have been killed in this senseless violence. And we also express our sincere thanks to the police officer and all of the emergency service personnel who walked into danger, not away from it.
I want to ask you now about this unfolding situation in the Middle East. There's been fears from government all the way along that it could develop Israel-Palestine war into a broader conflict. That appears to be happening. The hope, I guess, is that it's contained. What do you think happens from here? What are your fears from this Iranian attack, which they are calling retaliation?
Andrew, this is an extremely serious situation, and I think we need clarity in describing what is going on here. Iran is a malicious actor in the Middle East. They have been funding terror. They fund Hamas to the tune of almost $100 million a year for their terror activity. They fund and support the Houthi rebels as they attack American and Australian and Israeli shipping containers through the Gulf. And they fund Hezbollah, an organisation which they fund to the tune of almost $600 million a year in order to be a proxy which was used in Syria, and as well as targeting civilians in the north of Israel, resulting in over 100,000 Israeli citizens currently displaced from their homes. Iran is an actor that is seeking to use its influence in the Middle East to create violence and target civilian populations and fund terror organisations. And now, this morning, they have decided to launch drones and missiles towards the civilian populations of Israel. There are warnings going out in the north and the south of Israel at the moment, telling civilians that they need to be near shelter. This is an extremely serious escalation by a country that has proven itself to be a bad actor in the Middle East. The United States and the United Kingdom have already activated their assets in order to try and prevent a civilian life being lost inside Israel. And Australia stands in solidarity with the people of Israel who are currently under fire from an Iranian regime who have funded terror and have funded the worst players in the Middle East.
Josh Burns, I should warn you, we might have to cut you off here shortly because the Prime Minister's about to speak about the Bondi Junction killings, but let me press on. Peter Dutton called Penny Wong's speech last week about Palestinian statehood the most reckless act by a foreign minister in Australia in decades. Was it?
Well, I think what I would say right now is that there is an immediate situation unfolding in the region. There is an immediate situation where a country is attacking a civilian population. Iran is attacking Israel, and that is the primary concern of Israel, obviously, and as well as the United States, the United Kingdom, and that is certainly one thing that needs to be dealt with in the immediate future. Now, obviously, we all want to turn to the long-term security of the region, but there is still the threat of terror, and there is still the threat of a country like Iran attacking civilian populations, and that must be dealt with in the immediate future, and that's got to be the number one priority at this time.
Well, let's have a look at some other reactions to this Penny Wong speech. The Executive Council of Australian Jewry President Daniel Adjon said the speech was not the way to treat a friend and ally of Australia. The Zionist Federation of Australia President Jeremy Liebler said any talk of recognition of Palestinian statehood in such close proximity to the 7 October attack is entirely premature and will be seen as a reward for those attacks. Do they have a point?
Well, I think the point that Jeremy and Daniel are making is that Hamas is still a threat and that Australia has recognised that Hamas can have no role in the future governance of Gaza. Now, that is not a simple equation in order to remove Hamas, but any future arrangements inside the Palestinian territories cannot include Hamas, and Australia is positioning itself to facilitate a world beyond that. But that obviously underscores the fact that currently Hamas is the governing body inside, or the authority inside Gaza, and Australia recognises that Hamas cannot play a role in the future governance of Gaza. So this is a very complicated situation, but one where we are clear-eyed about the current situation, and then we are clear-eyed about what we would like to see in the future. But this is sequential and it needs to happen sequentially.
Josh Burns,
one
thank
thing
you.
needs to happen before the others.
We're crossing to the Prime Minister. Thanks for